7:02, I'm going to call this meeting, Parkside Borough to order, January 19, 2022. If everybody could please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Do a quick roll call. Councilman Costigan. Here. Councilwoman Guy.
Here.
Councilman Powers. Here. Councilwoman Percival.
Here.
Councilman Sidlow. Here. Vice President Bull.
Here.
Turn on your mics.
Thank you.
I got you.
Mayor Roman.
Here.
Solicitor Newell.
Here.
Treasurer Stillwell.
Here.
Engineer Roto.
Yes. Here.
Chief Murray.
Here.
Code Enforcement Officer Capabianco.
Here.
I think everyone is present, and we do have a quorum. First thing I'm going to do, I would entertain a motion to amend the agenda due to the fact that we got to include an approval for the minutes.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor of amending the agenda to include an approval for the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So moved. So the agenda is going to be modified so that the next thing is approval of minutes. I'll take a motion to approve the minutes for the December 15th meeting.
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? So moved. Motion to approve the minutes from the reorganization meeting. These are the minutes that I sent out to council for the reorg meeting on January 3rd.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor of approving the minutes for the January 3rd reorganization meeting?
Aye.
All those opposed? All right. Correspondence, I didn't really have, there was no written correspondence. I'm going to go, then we're going to move to the mayor's report. Mayor Roman?
Okay, so the crimes reported in December were 11. 9 of them were theft, 1 was fraud, 1 was a curfew violation. Calls for service was 131. 13 of them was suspicious persons, 8 was medical emergencies, 18 was assist of other agencies, and 7 were domestic. 3 were accidents, 18 were traffic details, 30 were motor vehicle stops, 17 were traffic citations, 4 were warnings, and 2 were non-traffic. And then at some point, Chief Murray will discuss what he and I spoke about with the crime going down and stuff like that. So I don't know if you want him to speak now or...
Sure. Chief Murray?
Okay. I wrote a memo to the mayor, just kind of a synopsis of the year 2021, understanding that we were coming out of a pandemic, things were starting to return to normal. That's kind of going by the wayside, but hopefully we get out of this. But during the pandemic, we saw a rapid decline in the number of calls that we had. Our crimes decreased a little bit, but this past year, 2021, our police incidents are back up by 668. We're back up to 1,869 for the year, which puts us back about where we were pre-pandemic. The number of citations for this year rose 44%. We wrote 206 traffic citations for the year. A good part of that was due to our enforcement on Edgemont Avenue. Back in October, we made a big change in the department in our work schedule. We used to work from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., 4 p.m. to midnight, midnight to 8 a.m. for a couple of reasons. The guys wanted to change. We gave it a try. It was successful, so we are now working from 6 in the morning till 2 in the afternoon, 2 in the afternoon till 10 at night, and 10 at night till 6 in the morning. And what it did for us is several of our officers work part-time for us, work full-time jobs with the county. They will come in and work a midnight shift and then leave and go to the county. Well, they had to leave early, which meant we had to have an officer come in and relieve them early. So that went away. That worked well for us. The other thing that it allowed us to do was an enormous amount of traffic enforcement in the school zone, right out here at the corner. We have an officer in the school zone almost every single day, morning and afternoon. So that's been a big help. The other thing that, as you well know, we started the accreditation process. We have completely rewritten the policy manual that is now in place. We are now starting to acquire our proofs to show that we abide by all of the accreditation standards, 138 of them, I think, at last count. And if all goes well, sometime around the end of this year or the beginning of 23, we will be ready for an assessment. Just going back to what the mayor mentioned about crimes, we had 66 total crimes all of last year. That's a 35% decrease from the previous year. We had 102 crimes in 2020. So coming out of the pandemic with our police calls rising, we did not have a rise in crime. We had just the opposite. We had a decrease in crime, which is very good news. I guess that's kind of the highlights of the year. The biggest crime that we responded to was thefts, and most of those were thefts from motor vehicles. So if I could put it out to everybody, pass the word to everybody, lock your cars. That's the best way to deter the thefts from vehicles, is to lock your cars, because they're not breaking into cars, they're opening cars that are left unlocked. And I'll leave it at that.
Thank you very much, Chief. Mayor, anything else?
That's it.
All right, thank you. At this time, we'll have a call to citizens for agenda-related items only.
Minnie Domenico, 116 Beach Road. The resolution 1848 proceeds to phase 2 of Light. Where was phase 1?
Phase one is the presentation that you will see as item number 1 under the new business. It's something that everybody will be.
But this is phase 2.
The presentation under new business item number 1 is phase 1, which was a no-cost study to the borough. That is the presentation everybody here will see. If council approves resolution, we would move to phase 2.
But don't our lights already get replaced when they go out with an LED?
Yes.
So why are we doing a different light system where we do have to pay? It comes out of liquid fuel now, correct?
I believe it's out of liquid fuels, yes.
So why are we paying for an LED light that we're already doing?
We haven't agreed to pay for it yet. That's what the presentation and what the vote later on. We may go forward with it, we may not.
Okay, I got more after that.
Any other statements? President's report. First, I want to thank everybody for their help over the last several weeks. I can't stress enough how much I miss Mrs. Higgins. She was an unsung hero here in this borough with everything that she did. I'm still trying to figure out everything that she's done. With that being said, we are still looking for a part-time borough secretary. If anybody's interested, if you want to email questions or resume, letter of interest, to office@parksideborough.com. Try to get back to you, answer any questions, or we'll take a look at your resume. Council should have received the annual Ethics Commission's forms. Please make sure those get filled out in a timely manner. Last thing I have is that this evening, Council had an executive session meeting to discuss various personnel matters for the borough.
Mr. President, if I can interject.
Yes, go ahead, Councilman Grossman.
We did meet in executive session. One of them, topics were the 2 professional staff that were hired by the borough, that the rest of council, or many of the council members, did not have an opportunity to meet or to have questions concerning their engagement letter. I'd just like to point out for the public's knowledge and for our record that the firm Rudolph Clark LLC was hired at a fee of $185 per hour plus a $20,000 yearly retainer, which equates to $1,666.67 per month. Also, there is a paralegal fee for any issues regarding liens on properties at $125 per hour.
Mrs. Percival, if I could just have...
Yes,
So, but prior, that had been done by the solicitor himself?
yes.
At what rate?
He charged a discount rate because he and his secretary would go to the courthouse and do it.
What was the rate?
I don't have a bill from him.
Okay.
I don't know. I'd have to actually check. The second person on the professional staff was Brinker Simpson. Brinker Simpson will be our new accounting firm. I'd like to point out for the record and for the public that the fee listed, and this is on their engagement letter, will be $1,875 per month, $300 to attend a monthly council meeting, and they will only charge $300 if they reach the fee of $1,875 a month. Additional meetings will be invoiced at $200 a month, and audits such as workers' comp, police pension, 1099 preparations are outside the monthly accounting reconciliation, and that will be billed separately. So, Mr. President, if I could have that, to get that on the official record.
No problem, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, that's it. That's all I have for the President's report. Finance report, Mr. Bull.
Thank you, President Swigert. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to make a motion to accept the treasurer's report.
Second. I have a couple questions about the report. Just for my understanding, how is the building inspector paid? Is that a fixed salary, or is that depending on the permits?
That's permit based.
Okay, so going off of that, if comparing the period from December 16th to January 17th last year and this year, if our building permits went down from about approximately 18,000 to 3,000 this year, how did the compensation for the building inspector increase from $1,000 to $4,000?
It was my understanding that we changed the rates.
But if the permit money is going down significantly, how is the salary increasing quadrupled?
Can I answer? Can I
I
try?
mean, the rates changed. It was voted on in council. Like it had remained at, I forget what the actual was, like $25 for every 1,000 for decades, and it was changed after what was essentially decades to, is it 50 or something?
Are you talking specifically the building inspector, Mr. Ferguson, or are you talking the whole building department, or Mr. Capabianco?
So in the budget,
Okay.
or the statement of receipts, the money that came in for building permits from December to January of last year
Okay.
was over $17,000. This year it was a little over $3,000 for building permits.
I don't know what you're looking at.
So it was
Yeah, this is
18,000.
building permits.
Okay.
Okay.
And then the salary for the building inspector
Mhm.
almost quadrupled. So if the building inspector is being paid based on the permits, how is his?
That was only for a 3-week period. This is only for.
No, this is a month, the
Right,
16th to the 17th.
1-month period.
And another question I have is, why is the building inspector's salary more than the permits? In other words, we're bringing in money from the permits,
No,
but
no,
we're.
you're looking at a,
No, this is a month from
yeah,
December
you're looking
16th
at
to the 17th.
1 month. This is his salary for building
Excuse
inspector.
me,
Count?
The treasurer would like to speak.
Please.
could be the timing of the receipts from the building inspector and then the payment to
Until he
the
actually got it.
individual.
Okay,
So
okay.
that
There's
could
a
be
time.
the
Okay,
reason for the
well, that would make sense.
discrepancy.
I saw that and
Yeah.
I was confused about that.
Because you're looking at a month, so if the payroll, the receipts come in the prior 2 weeks,
Right.
and then the person is paid, that could be the discrepancy.
Okay, I understand. One other question, and this is just a question, I'm not trying to attack or anything like that, I just have a question. There was a payment to Mrs. Higgins for $2,750 on December 30th. This is reimbursement. What was she being reimbursed for?
Her health insurance.
It was a dental expense.
Okay, I just wanted to ask that.
I believe
Any
that
other
was
questions on the motion to accept the treasurer's report?
Second.
Motion and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? So moved.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to make a motion to pay the bills.
Second.
Any questions? All those in favor of the motion to pay the bills?
Aye.
All those opposed? So moved. Mr. Bull, anything else for the finance reports?
Just working our way through the transition, new signing cards for Sharon Bank, a few things like that, developing our relationship with Brinker Simpson, and trying to close out last year. We're in a solid financial footing as far as that goes. Any places where it looks like we have a little extra money, it is not a windfall. It is just truly an accounting issue. Things will settle out. There were public funds that were given to boroughs and things like that to be utilized. We have a tax anticipation note that's in there, so there's no reason to think we can go out and spend frivolously. So if everyone can maintain tight reins on their finances, we'll be able to keep the borough in good standing. And with that, we'll report general progress for the finance report. Moving on to the open space report, it is time to kind of revisit the signage down there. We have set aside money budgeted for work at the woodlot. We have a few things that need to be addressed. We did have a crew down there to take care of a solid stockpile of Christmas trees that we've done annually, and address a hazardous tree last week as far as that. And with, open discourse, it is the company that I work for, but it's always come at extremely discounted rates to the point where I find struggles with my employer, but it still works out much better for the borough than to go elsewhere. So I don't have an invoice for that, but we'll bring that up at the next meeting. And there was a hickory tree that had started to uproot, and then there was another tree that had been an issue, a long-standing issue that we had had approval since about last July to take care of, that we were being compelled to with by a state senator. So we addressed that too. And with that, I will report general progress.
Thank you. Police Public Safety Report, Mr. Costigan.
I don't have anything to report at this time, other than I just look forward to connecting with the chief and the mayor to keep our community safe, as has been done, and just general progress there.
Thank you. Ordinance Report, Mr. Sidlow.
Recreational.
Oh, sorry, Recreation.
That's okay.
Missing.
For recreation, I look forward to creating a robust committee with a lot of different folks on it to help plan events for the community. We're going to be meeting the first Wednesday of every month. That's 7 p.m. in the Borough Hall. If that time doesn't work for people who are interested, you can let me know and we can maybe find another time. But as of now, we'll meet the first Wednesday of each month. And one of the things to look out for is a survey of borough events, things that you've liked, things you would like to see. I'd like to bring some more events to the community where people can come together, especially after the pandemic. And I'm looking forward to your input of what you would like to see. So hope to see some people come to that meeting on the first Wednesday of February.
Great.
Michael, do
Yeah.
you have a time for your meetings?
Yeah, 7.
Okay.
In the Borough Hall, yes. First Wednesday of the month, 7 p.m. in the Borough Hall.
Thank you. Sorry about skipping the recreation.
Yeah.
Okay, now, moving on. Ordinance report, Mr. Sidlow?
So we have no new ordinances for this month. I have, over the years of being council member, looked at the ordinances and seen some that seem outdated and don't seem appropriate. Mrs. Guy has shared the same opinion with me as well. So I would be curious to see if it's feasible to do a full review of all borough ordinances in its entirety. I would love to, get other citizens to look at those ordinances as well and perhaps form a committee of some kind where multiple people would be giving their opinions as to the ordinances. And so I'm not prepared to start that endeavor yet, but as we move forward into the spring, that would be something that I would be thinking about wanting to do with the ordinance, with ordinances.
I would suggest, personal suggestion, somebody else can speak, start with just the council committee, see what you want to address on a smaller scale rather than hitting the entire ordinance code book specifically, all at one shot.
No, we would have
Yeah.
to do some kind of systematic way to do that, and I don't have any idea yet how to do that, but that's, in my mind, is something we could try to undertake. So, I think it's a big undertaking, however, and will require time and resources, so we'll see what we can do.
Anything else for ordinance?
No, that's the report for that.
License and inspections? Mr. Sidlow?
There were 5 building permits, 3 plumbing permits, 2 electrical, and 4 use and occupancy. And I also have not spoken with the code officials or the license or the code enforcement officer, but perhaps having a meeting of that department and the other members of the committee might be useful to see if there's any ways that we can improve things. I think the borough secretary's involvement would be important in that discussion. So I think that's something we would defer to doing until we had a borough secretary who was on board. But a meeting with the license inspection committee and the members of the code enforcement department and the inspections department, I think would be a valuable meeting. But I will contact the officials and discuss that. So that's where I am with that.
All right, moving on. Any report for code enforcement, Mr. Capabianco?
Thank you, Mr. President. I can report progress. As far as this meeting, Councilman Sidlow wants, if they're going to have a meeting with me, I want all council to be involved.
All right.
So everybody knows what's going on. Thank you, that's all I got to say.
Public Works Property Report, Mr. Powers.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll make your life easier. I'll just go down each one.
Go right ahead.
Public Work Report. All borough properties have been maintained for the month. The borough truck was sent out to intercom. There was 2 hydraulic lines broken on the snowplow. We lost a significant amount of hydraulic oils. It is back and ready for tomorrow morning. We have 1 measurable snowfall We've used 5 yards of salt during the storm. At the end of the year, I'll break the yards down to a tonnage, and
Okay.
I'll let you know exactly what we pay for salt. Right now, I just break it down into yards, basically how many scoops that we get
Okay.
from Brookhaven. So we have 5 so far during one measurable snowstorm. We're bracing for another one overnight. We are fully prepared to handle. I know this is going to be a hot topic in the new business, but the question of LED lights surfaced again. And the reason I want it noted in the Public Works Department is, as far as I'm concerned, street lights fall under Public Works. I understand that paperwork was signed. Mr. Sidlow sent an email out. That paperwork was signed by him. I just want to bring to your attention that it did not come out of committee. I chair that committee, and I have seen no paperwork until after the fact, which I chair. Again, we can bring this up in new business. I don't want to go into a lot, but I do believe that sunshine laws were broken by not having me involved as the chair. So we'll discuss that further. Health inspector. All health inspections are completed, with the exception of 2. I'll finish them in the next week. Fire marshal inspections on the fire side will start the first week of February. EMC report. There was 2 declarations of emergencies declared. One was for snow, one was for rain and wind. No damage reported on either storm to the Borough, Parkside, nor to the county. That's all I have.
Thank you very much, Mr. Powers.
Mr. President,
Yes.
may I comment on Mr. Powers' report?
Yes, please.
I will not be lengthy, I promise, but I will start out by saying that Mr. Sidlow signed a regional streetlight program feasibility form with attachments to DVRPC without first obtaining an affirmative vote from the majority of council at a public meeting authorizing such signature of this agreement. Therefore, he is in violation of Borough Code 710.1A, 710.1C, 712.1A. He's also in violation of Section 1006.4 and the Sunshine Act, which states officially, and I can list, and I have copies of all of those in case anybody questions the verbiage of any of those, I can recite them. But in the Sunshine Law, it also requires that no one other than the President of Council can sign any type of survey agreement or contract, and it must be brought forth before signature at an open public meeting. So the penalty, of course, is a resident can bring this person up to the Court of Common Pleas, and there is up to a $1,000 penalty for such violation. I can certainly go through more comments on this if you'd like me to, or I will wait until the situation's brought up. It's up to you.
We can wait.
Thank you.
If you wouldn't mind. All right, moving on. Recycling MS4 report. Mrs. Percival.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to start out by saying that for the month of December, we had 85.23 tons of trash, 11.45 tons of recycling. I've also spoken with the hauler about doing an e-recycle event. The cost would be $1,500. We were talking about possibly May 14th, which is a Saturday. And I'd like to know how council feels about spending that money on an e-cycle event in which we have not done in several years.
Do you need a motion to pay for it, or do you?
I'd like to know how council feels about an e-cycle event.
What exactly is that?
Electronics.
Oh.
So you can, and we have room in front of the building. We could put their hauler right there, and anybody who has electronics that need to be recycled. We haven't done it at least 2 years.
Would there be a fee to the residents for drop-offs?
No, it would only be us paying for the hauler at $1,500.
Okay. Because I know some recyclings, if you drop off a TV, it's so much, so there would be no fee for the residents.
No
for
fee
that.
for the residents, it just comes out of their tax dollars.
Would we be able to partner with a neighboring borough to host an event?
I don't know that anybody's doing it, but I can ask them.
Just to offset it? I mean, if that would be the cost, we might as well offset it and have it open up to other boroughs.
about that with shredding also.
We've had success, and then we've had some that were, it just truly depends on how much advertisement. The only thing that I thought might be nice at some point was to not overdo it, but time it with another activity, you know, if the Easter egg hunt is down in the wood lot and people are coming out, then you have a chance to get people out. So it seems like it helps with the advertisements, but I would make the motion to have, it also goes for, I forget the name of the questionnaire that we have to do for the county. Yeah, it slips me right now, but it does go to, we have green waste recycling, all that goes towards a questionnaire that helps with grant funding and things of that nature. So there is a benefit for it. I apologize for forgetting the term right off the top of my head.
Any,
Made the motion, I'll second it.
so this is a motion to,
So does this come out of trash dollars, or does this come out of?
That would be out of general fund.
General fund.
general fund. So we have a motion to approve an e-recycling event, tentative date of May 14th for a cost of $1,500.
With a second.
With a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? So moved.
Thank you. I will notify the hauler, and I will also ask if they have any other boroughs in the area that are doing the same thing. Also, Ms. Catania advertised information concerning the borough's pollutant reduction plan for public comment as part of our 5-year plan for the reduction of settlement loads for the MS4 stormwater discharge. We also have a member of Catania Engineering here this evening who has a hard copy of the plan, and Kristen will be speaking about our MS4 plan. For our new members, MS4 equates to a municipal separate stormwater system or stormwater management plan. So, and that's all I have this evening.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Percival. Communications, Ms. Guy.
Thank you very much. I'd like to announce that the first meeting of the Communication Committee will be Tuesday, January 25th at 6:30 p.m. I encourage anyone who is interested in working on our communications, whether they're newsletters, emails, etc., to please attend the meeting or reach out to me if you have any questions. We have an email blast, and I had asked Nick Capabianco to give me the ability to send the emails to the borough using the addresses that have been collected using the website form. I've been told that Nick created the form and that we see that he has possession of the emails as recently as 4 days ago, yet he claims that the emails are owned by a private citizen who does not want current council to have them. Nick said he would forward any emails I wanted sent to the residents, but never sent the agenda and reorganization newsletter that I sent him last night. I believe Nick also has the login and password for the YouTube account where the meeting videos have been uploaded, and I do not know who has access to the Parkside Borough Facebook account. Besides forcing us to ask the residents to submit their email addresses to the borough again, are there any risks, I'm asking the solicitor, to the borough that the residents' email addresses were collected under false pretenses and are now in the possession of Nick? And is there a way for us to compel him to give us the email addresses and cease using them on his own?
Peter?
I'm here, sorry.
Did you hear the question?
Yeah, I did. So, I mean, if these are email addresses the borough collected, they're burning property. I mean, if somebody masqueraded as the borough to get this information, I mean, it's definitely a problem. I mean, it's invasion of privacy. I suppose somebody could try to sue the borough. I'm sorry, you say Mr. Capabianco has access to this information?
Yes.
Okay, well, I mean, he just needs to turn it over to the borough. He's a borough employee. I don't know, it's pretty simple, just turn it over.
Mr. President, it's my understanding that the email blast is not owned by Mr. Capabianco. And if I'm wrong, I hope somebody can correct me.
Is it owned by someone else?
I understood that you were notified that it was.
Well, the only evidence we have,
I don't understand. The borough email list is owned by somebody?
The program itself and the listing that the residents agreed to sign up for,
Who is it owned by?
I don't know. I'm talking out of turn, but I don't know, but that was my understanding.
Is Mr. Campagnano there? Who owns
He is here.
it?
He is here.
Who owns it?
I don't know. That's what I'm
We don't-
saying, I don't know.
No, but
Mr. Capabianco, he's asking who owns the email list?
I'm not giving that information up.
Okay.
I said I'm not giving that
He said-
information up.
He said he's not going to give that information.
We need to go in executive session then or something. That's outrageous. I mean, I don't understand what's happening. Or we can deal with it later, but obviously, we're gonna have to deal with
Isn't there a section that says that this was borough
Oh,
property,
we're gonna,
not third
Excuse
party?
hold on. This is still a council meeting, we'll have public comment in a little bit. Mrs. Guy, anything else for communications?
no.
Mr. President, I'd like
Yes.
to address the Communication Committee.
Yes, please.
I sent out an email last evening to you, Mr. President, and all of council. I respectfully request to be removed from the Communication Committee for the following reasons. I did not receive a reply last night, so I will explain my reasonings to the public. My questions and concerns exhausted Mrs. Guy, and although all elected officials have a right to know and request information, I do not want to further exhaust Mrs. Guy, which she accused me of. My contention is that reference in any form about an elected official, political party, should not be placed in any form, newsletter, email that is distributed to our residents, as we are nonpartisan. Mrs. Guy disagreed with this theory, as she sent an email and I forwarded it to everybody last evening. Mrs. Guy has indicated that a resident, Theo McCready, is on the committee without any resume, any knowledge of myself or many on council. I feel this information should be made public when a committee list was announced at the reorganization committee. Was this a secret? Who in the public is also on the councilmatic committee? Are the residents permitted to be on any other committee such as the finance, ordinances? Arrangements were made through an independent company that has a fee associated with it without the majority of council's knowledge or approval. Mr. Costigan explained and corrected the situation when chairperson Mrs. Guy made no attempt to explain this to council or to seek approval from council before it was done. The fee is $20 to $70 a month, and any email that is given to this company may be shared through surveys, solicitation, or polls.
But none of
I do not feel my knowledge, suggestions, or opinions would be considered by members of this committee or by the chairperson. Therefore, my time and effort would be a total waste of my energy. Being a member of a committee and being left out in the dark would only create undue stress and frustration on my part, and it's unnecessary. The sample draft, which I was sent, Mr. Sidlow was sent, and Mrs. Guy created, has now been placed on our website and on Mrs. Guy's Facebook page without anybody on council adding any suggestions, doing any updates, or adding anything to the content. I would like to know why, morally or legally, one council member has the right to create a newsletter that goes out to all of our residents without the approval of council, our knowledge, additions, or corrections. I therefore respectfully resign from the Communication committee, and I appreciate your approval of this.
I would respectfully ask you not to at this point in time. I do believe the mention of the parties was removed,
Yes, it was. I looked this morning. Yes.
per your suggestion.
Yes.
I looked, every committee that was created so that no committee is single party. And by removing you, I'm trying to keep everything, or it would kind of defeat the purpose of trying to keep everything bipartisan, because I want everybody's interaction so that there is no one party that feels that they don't have a voice somewhere. I'm sorry that you feel that way right now. That's why I'm asking if we can try to figure out a better situation here, a better communication process between the members of the communication committee.
Mr. President, you've seen the emails that have been sent only
Yep.
to me, in which Mrs. Guy said to me, I exhaust her by asking questions.
I believe I said her exhaustive questions, not exhausting.
I don't think it's a word game anymore, Mrs. Guy.
You know,
I have all your emails, and if it
Please
wasn't for
quote me
Mr.
properly.
Costigan answering my questions, I would still be in the dark about how this company, and I have the forms in front of me, the Constant Contact Company was started and how much they charged.
If I may
Mr.
say-
President,
if I
I
may say-
respectfully will ask that somebody else be put on the committee, because I will not be attending the meetings.
That's fair enough, but let me respond to the constant contact accusations. Michael was kind enough to just throw it together so that we could see what it would look like. We had never made any decisions to use it. He had done it on his own time to show. And then the one that I used, we did not use that program. We don't intend to use that program at this time. So I don't understand why there's so much concern about it
I
when,
guess because you went behind everybody's back and didn't even tell me, who was a member of the committee.
If I could say something, because my name was
Yes,
mentioned.
please, and thank you for
Costigan.
changing that. Thank you.
So, this whole situation is really, it's just frustrating at this point, because we have committees of people that should work together. And I heard a lot about in the last 2 years how people weren't able to work with other council members. And when we have a council member that's on a committee, she should be treated with the dignity and respect that everybody deserves to be treated with. And when that member of the committee has less information than people that aren't even elected to council, that I have a problem with that. We were all elected to work together. Whether we like it or not, whether we're the same party or not, that's what we were elected to do. People thought that we were equipped with that ability to work with each other. We're adults. We're supposed to be the role models of this community. And it's honestly a disgrace to be a member of the public and come to these meetings and watch us act like this. I mean, this is simple. We're talking about a communications committee where the committee can't even communicate with each other. I mean, what are we doing here?
Absolutely.
It's just, I don't know. I don't know what to say.
I'm just going to say that I was out of commission for a couple of weeks. I had a family emergency, and I sent it on to Shirley as soon as I was able to.
Mrs. Percival, I'll ask one more time, could we try to work through this with
Can we
you,
table it
with
for
myself, you, and Mrs. Guy, so we can figure out how this can run smoother?
Mr. President, may I suggest another member of council, whether it's a Democrat or Republican? I don't think it should matter who's on the communication committee.
Okay, then I'll regretfully remove you from communications. Your suggestion? Do you have it? I mean, I'm just understanding, you said you have a suggestion for replacement, or no?
Anyone on council, I'm sure, would enjoy doing communication committee.
All right. I will reach out to the rest of council later on to see who'd be interested in filling that spot.
Thank you, sir.
Anything else for communications? I believe Mr. Fisher left a tax collector's report. Mr. Bull?
Tax collector's report from Edward Fisher, December 24th, 2021 to January 10th, 2022. Good evening. The treasurer has received a total of $1,554 to date. There was $5,368.82 in revenue deposits from December 24th, 2021 to January 10th, 2022. Regards, Ed Fisher.
Thank you very much. Any questions on the tax collector report? Moving on, engineers report, Mr. Roto.
Thank you, Mr. President. Engineers report, 2022 Cdbg applications for the following have been submitted to the county for consideration. Primary project is the Edgemont Avenue Corridor Master Plan, and the alternate was the Business Area Renewal Study. Upcoming grant opportunities to consider: DCNR Small Communities Grant. Typical project cost is between $50,000 and $70,000 for playgrounds, pavilions, and ADA accessibility, among other opportunities. And any cost over $30,000 requires a 50-50 match, and the total project cost cannot exceed $110,000. And the application deadline is April 6th. TCDI grant through DVRPC. Grant guidelines and requirements will be released by DVRPC on February 1st, and we'll know more at that point. Local match is no longer required for this grant, and the application deadline is April 27th. Other than general progress, that's all I have to report.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Solicitors reports.
Nothing to report, just happy to be here and excited to work with all of council.
Thank you.
May I ask a question? I just need some advice from the solicitor. Regarding emails amongst council members, perhaps I misunderstand the Right to Know Act or the Sunshine Law, but I thought that any emails between enough council members that a quorum is reached is subject to right to know request, and that copying everyone is discouraged.
So I handle a significant amount of right to know requests for many of our boroughs and townships, and actually any of your emails are subject to right to know requests, regardless of quorum. So if you send an email from an official account, regardless of whether it's official business, it's going to be subject if it comes up in a search that somebody submits a request for. It doesn't matter if you used your account for something personal for that one item. If it triggers the search, it triggers the search. So if somebody requests any and all emails from every single borough council member regarding cats, if you sent a picture of a cat and said, look how nice my cat is, we would disclose it because it is an official communication technically. However, your private emails, as long as they are not used for borough business, are not subject. However, if you do communicate about borough business and you do reach a quorum on private emails, then I would say that they do become. So I would keep all borough communications separate. So I would not use your borough email for anything personal, and I would not use your personal email for anything borough related. But to answer your question, any communication would be subject to right to know law.
Okay, thank you.
May I also ask the solicitor a question?
Sure.
Is it appropriate for a resident to be on a municipal committee?
Can you define what you mean by committee?
We have a resident who I have not seen a resume for yet, who was appointed on as webmaster, and he's also on the communication committee. Is that normally approved, that have a resident be on a councilmatic committee?
In the past, I have seen residents be on certain committees for individual things such as like activities. If you have an activities committee.
Like a recreation committee.
A recreation committee, a parks committee would usually have some sort of public input or members, and I've seen communications have residents on the committee as well.
Thank you.
So I think it really depends on your council.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments for the solicitor? At this time, we'll do call to citizens. Again, when you come up to speak, please give us your name and address.
Microphone.
Oh, Mrs. Romero, could you give your microphone over to the...
Trust me, you'll hear me.
No, for the video, you need the microphone.
Just sit at the end of the desk.
Yeah, it just needs to be at the end of it. There, it'll pick it up.
Fine.
Mr. Capabianco, that should pick it up from there, right? Thank you.
Judy Saunders, 62 East Chelton Road. Disclaimer, your submission is agreeing to the use of your email by the Borough of Parkside for information purposes only. All information shared will be kept private and will not be used or shared with third parties. If my information was collected by this borough and given to a third party whose name I now do not know, you will be hearing from a lawyer.
Right.
Because prior President Percival and prior and current Vice President Doug Bull knows that there was somebody who sat on this council who doxed residents, who gave out where they worked, who gave out where they lived, who gave out things that ended up in death threats and rape threats to a child that was under 18. So if this information is now being handed into somebody else's hands, and I don't know who that is, you've all got a problem, 100%. Also, as somebody who has served on the rec committee and can point out about 7 other people who served on the rec committee, citizens serving on a committee and having the ability to interact with the borough should not be something that's discouraged. It should not be something that's looked down upon. I'm sorry, I know it's a super secret agency and we're not all allowed to participate, but there have been people who have contributed to this borough for many, many years, being on committees that this borough approved of. And one last thing, Todd Bennett ran the newsletter. I don't remember any of us agreeing to it. I've been to every goddamn meeting. I have never heard where he has needed to supply a resume or he has needed to be approved by every council member before he was appointed to that task.
He was paid, Mrs. Saunders. He was
Oh,
paid.
he was paid for it?
That's
Okay.
correct.
So we were paying somebody to do a newsletter that multiple people had stood at this podium and offered to do for free. That sounds fun. Have fun, guys.
Michelle Stroback, 157 West Garrison Road. My question is basically what the solicitor had mentioned too, is, my question is, why are companies being selected without all of council knowing? I mean, as a taxpayer, you were elected to serve us. And I'm hearing that someone didn't know that this person was hired, someone didn't know that this person was hired. Transparency and unity, I heard this last election. Transparency and unity. Somebody want to tell me what it means, or should I just remind people what it means? So, transparency in business means communicating. Wow, we have a communication committee. I think we need to remind people what that means too. Communicating openly and honestly with your team members and cultivating a culture where information can flow freely between people and teams. What I see is a division. I feel like I'm in high school. Let's pick teams. Unity, transparency. When we select an attorney to represent our borough, all of council should know. We select a secretary to work at our borough office, all of council should know. They weren't. Secret meetings are being held. This secret society that some of you are mentioning are part of it. And I'm tired of it. Enough with the individual teams. Enough. I've seen it on the website, on Parkside 19015. I've seen some council members comment to residents. I'm not speaking just for myself. I've been on there reading. Even Brookhaven is now commenting to our page. Other people, they're seeing it. Again, embarrassment. Team. There's no I in team. But I feel like that's what we're doing. Things being signed and no one in council, no one else knows. I am just done. Done. Get it together. If you're going to have committees, include everybody. If you want something from a specific person, include everybody, as our code officer mentioned. Include all of council so everybody knows what's going on. So we're not wasting time asking others questions here that should have already been done and decided through your emails. Thank you.
Mr. President, Mrs. Saunders left, but I just want to point out, as I did in an email, about your email blast that the borough had set up, there is a disclaimer. The disclaimer on the email blast states, disclaimer for Parkside residents only, and all personal information will be kept private and will not be shared. So there is a disclaimer that we are not to share the email addresses, and Mrs. Saunders left and I didn't get a chance to tell her that.
My quick question, is that disclaimer on the blast or was it on the sign-up site?
I believe it was on the sign-up, and I don't have a current blast.
I have a
I'm
screenshot
not
of
worried
it.
about what was on the blast.
That's when you sign up.
Okay.
I have a screenshot.
But Mrs. Saunders left, so I didn't get a chance
Okay.
to say that to her.
But who owns the list?
All right, this is, right now, it's a call to citizens. We're clarifying the question that a
That's
citizen
correct.
raised.
Mrs. Saunders
We're gonna
already
move-
left.
We're going to move on.
Lisa Costello, 252 East Avon Road. I'm just echoing the concerns shared by Mrs. Saunders about the emails not being supposedly in the hands of some third party that will not be disclosed to us. That seems very wrong, and I do echo her concerns that if our emails are being viewed by other people, used for other purposes, and we don't even know who that person is, and nobody will reveal that, will not allow the new council configuration to use the emails to communicate. No one knows what's going on with them. That seems a problem. That's all. That's just echoing that concern about the email. Thank you.
Thank you.
Minnie DiDomenico, 116 Beechwood Road. I have a concern. I don't want my email given to anybody on council. So if they had it, I agreed to it, but now it's a new council. We have the right to say if you can have our email or not. Am I correct? It's a law. I have the right. So you don't have the right to have my email unless I give it to you or I put it on the site. Also, on Miss Anagai's website, she had the meeting from last month, or at the beginning of the month, January, the reorganization meeting. You edited it, and I could prove that it was edited, because on the regular one, when Miss Shirley asked several questions, they were answered, but on your website, they're gone. Why? Why did you edit them?
Edit
What are
what?
you hiding?
What did I edit?
Okay, first of all, Shirley asked about, in the meeting, she asked about the...
Oh, somebody posted a video?
It's on your site. It's on your...
I didn't post that.
Oh, so you never do anything wrong. It's always everybody else's fault. Why? So it's all our fault? It's never your fault. You're wrong. That's why you need to be off council. And one day you will be, because you won't get voted back in next time. I promise you that.
Excuse me.
Andrew Slowick, 121.
One second, please. Just to be clear, Mrs. DiDomenico, you would like to be removed from the email blast list?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Pat, she does too. I bet you a lot of people in this room would like to. You should have us all raise our hand.
Well, we can try.
Start a new
we'll-
one. Start a new one.
Okay.
You can unsubscribe yourself. You can just go on the thing and say, I don't want to.
Start a new one. If you want to really want it, you put it.
Borough email.
Not you don't.
We'll take a look and get as to either recreating the list or providing an unsubscribe option
Thank you.
on a blast so you can be removed.
Is our mayor lining up to make a comment?
I'm sorry, sir. Go ahead.
Yeah, Andrew Slowick, 142 East Rolling Road. I have yet today as a two-part question. One, if you remember 1 or 2 weeks ago in the the Daily Times, there was an article about our health department and how they were taking over certain parts of our health department and increasing that, taking money out of our hands. Now, how much is that going to affect our bottom line?
I haven't seen
Mr.
that.
Powers, you want to address that, please?
I believe you were the one that did mention it, sir.
Yes,
And I did
so,
take note
right,
of that.
for that same reason, right now, 7 municipalities have a court injunction to block the health department as it's written. The 7 municipalities, which
Right.
are large municipalities, Media, Springfield,
Correct.
Marple, they are an injunction to stop it. And the reason they're stopping it, because they don't know how much budget money they're actually losing.
Right.
So to answer your question, it's still in the courts right now. And I was told through the Media Health Department at the county level to continue to do what I'm doing until otherwise noted.
Now, my question is that, if we're gonna do that work in this borough, why should that money go there then?
It won't.
So we'll
So
change it
the
then.
the inspections that I mentioned in my report tonight are completed except for 2. The borough has been paid.
Okay, and that money will stay in
That
our
money will
coffers.
stay to here, and then my salary is half of the borough payment. And they will not come in within the year and re-inspect or recharge the eateries that were already done. I'm hoping that the health department will stay in our municipality as it is, and then the new health department coming in will monitor COVID situation,
Correct.
infestations, things like that.
Yes.
So, I've been doing this for 7 years now. I have a very good rapport with our people here, and there's been no issues at all.
Yeah.
And when
I'm
someone's
worried
been
about
asked,
money.
it's done.
I'm just worried about money because I was somebody mentioned about our new,
That's why
finance
the,
people. But,
that's
you know,
why the
a lot of money
inspections
coming out.
were done the first week of January, so the borough didn't lose their money. So they're done. So we were able to retain that money. Next year, I don't know what's gonna happen.
I guess we can't join the lawsuit, huh?
That's up to
That's
borough
up to
council.
council, yeah.
I mean,
I'm hearing,
if it keeps money in our pockets, I mean, we just had a tax raise, I mean, most of it was for trash, but still, our taxes got raised. And if that's gonna hurt our bottom line, it's coming out of my pocket, it's coming out of every other's pocket in this borough. Maybe if you can afford it, fine, that's from you. I don't want it coming out. And if we're doing a good job, why do I want an outsider? I can understand the COVID, I can understand some major problems where a county department is needed, that's fine. They have to come in and oversee us for something that is major. I don't have a problem with that. But when we have been doing it, I have not seen, and I've been to enough meetings we have not done a good job. Why the hell should we have our money taken away from us?
I agree.
I mean, we pinch pennies enough as it is now. And the only other question is, this is with the chief of police simply, and I'll let it go at that. How often do our officers patrol during the day?
How often? They're out on the street off and on all day long.
On their 8-hour shifts?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
okay. As for the recycling, that's a good job. I think, I commend you if you do that. That e-recycle, we could really use that in this borough. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kimberly Roman, 29 East Chelton Road. So with everything that was being talked about tonight, and I have it with Scott right now. Scott, since you decided to do the lighting program, my question is, can you tell me where the money's coming from to start phase 2? And then once phase 2 is done, where are we going and where are we getting the money for phase 3? And what is phase 3? I'd like to know who all voted on it, because I did see the email saying most of the council wanted, which last year it was tabled. I don't know how many times it was voted against and all that. So that's just another question. Are you planning on taking it out of the liquid fuels? And if so, does that mean our roads don't get paved and our roads don't get salted? And then, if you do plan on it, do you know how much of that is going to, well, what you're doing it with the liquid fuels? If there's not enough money from liquid fuels, where's the money going to come from? And Perry, the different committees, there's some committees that were added and some that were taken, like, I didn't see the woodlot committee.
That was on before.
It's open space.
If we just
It's-
relabeled it, you said woodlot to label it as open space, so that way it includes the West Cole Memorial and any other parts, not just specifically woodlot, was the intent of the change of the label.
Okay.
But it was there in the prior 2 years.
Okay. So, Mr. Sidlow.
Well, we're going to have a presentation in just a few minutes, and I think we should listen to that presentation, and then we can have a discussion after that presentation.
Okay, so after this presentation, you'll be able to answer all the questions.
I'll be happy to answer any question.
Okay, thank you.
Nicole Boyers, 108 East Shelton. Dovetailing of the other resident, Michelle Stroback, had said about appointing paid position, treasurer, solicitor. These are all also at greater cost. So my question is why would you appoint, hire, backdoor deal, not the whole council, you guys, or one person, two person, a resident who hadn't even been sworn in yet, in on this, at a higher cost? The prior council had done a fabulous job saving us money. We had a surplus in our budget. This all comes back on us, higher taxes. I may be a renter, my rent's gonna go up because I'm gonna see it when my rent goes up. My understanding, again, it's very high school. You guys are nitpicking. I guess you guys are like on this little revenge kick because now you have a 4-3 in a nonpartisan council, okay? You got poor Mike over here trying to play peacemaker, and I know y'all are gonna eat him alive. He's trying to be good right now, and you know what? I like you as a person, but I've already heard the bad stuff, okay? Because it's all leaning to the left, you know? And I'm just like, I'm bracing, we're all bracing for impact. Parkside's gonna burn for the next couple years until we get these two Muppets off council.
Yeah, he doesn't want to use it
I have another
now.
question, I'm sorry.
He doesn't want to be the banger.
Why is the lawyer,
Quiet, please.
You got a gaff.
why is the lawyer that we're paying for doing by telephone?
I'm also an attorney.
Okay, but why is he answering the questions that were answered? That's what I don't understand. We're paying.
Well,
Would you like me to take it?
Yeah, no, we're paying her.
why,
So under the fee agreement, what would occur if two of us attend a meeting is you are only charged for one, and that is under the retainer.
Okay.
So while I sit here and I have Peter on the phone, unfortunately his car broke down and I happen to live in Delaware County, so I'm able to come. You only get charged for me. And that comes off of the retainer. So there's no double billing. Yeah. There's no extra charges or anything like that that occurs. Now, Peter has specific skill sets with different areas of municipal law, just like I do. So when we have right to know questions, I handle right to know on a daily basis.
Okay.
Peter represents other townships on and boroughs on a significant number of matters across zoning hearing, general personnel. He tends to be able to do that a little bit better than me.
Okay.
So the reason why there's two separate attorneys is because, well, one, I understand Delaware County a little bit better. So when we're talking about grants and things at the county level, I'm aware of those and I can speak on those a lot of times where Peter might be able to speak on other things better. And Peter is also stuck on the side of 476.
So every meeting, there will be two lawyers?
At a lot of meetings, there may be two attorneys.
Okay.
But you will only ever be charged for one.
Okay. Now, my other question is to Mr. Sundar. You did sign the contract and nobody else knew. If this doesn't get voted through, are you paying that?
no, actually,
Or is the borough?
I was aware of the signing.
So you would
I-
get caught with the sunshine
Can
too?
can I finish
Go ahead.
answering your first question? I was aware. I asked Mr. Sidlow to sign because, to make him the point of contact for this first phase pre-study. That is all that's been agreed upon. If If I am in violation of the Sunshine Act, I'm in violation, I was not aware, not ignorant.
You're not in violation of the Sunshine Act, there's no violation.
Okay, Mr. Musso, I'm gonna ask you to hold off for 1 second, please.
Sure,
Thank
sorry
you.
about that, I just wanted to.
Ignorance is not an excuse. If I'm in violation, I'm in violation. I will deal with whatever consequences might come from that. But again, anything going forward, before a dime is spent on this program, is going to be brought up in front of the entire council.
Quick question. I just have a question.
Name and address, please.
Kyle Palmer, 15 West Alban. Speaking of doxing, what the legal justification is for me giving you my address, considering this is videotaped and put on YouTube. I did attend Eddie Stone's reorganization meeting, and they don't announce their address in front of the video. They just sign their name on the board. I just don't. There are some zealots out there, and if someone thinks I'm an evil demon because I vote Democrat, I really don't need them to have my home address to harm me and my family. So, is there like a precedent or a requirement somewhere for that, or?
I can answer that if you don't mind, Mr. President. It's because we only, as most municipalities in this Commonwealth, permit residents to speak at council. If somebody came in from Nether Providence, wanted to complain about something, they would not be permitted to speak at council. That way, if you give an address, we know it is here in the borough.
Right, so technically I could say anyone's address and not live here, but couldn't we just sign up to speak instead of having to announce it to the internet where we live?
That's up to President of Council if he wants to change the
Right, that's why I'm
procedure.
asking.
It's something council can look at for future meetings.
Thank you.
Anybody else for call to citizens? Moving on, any unfinished business?
Yes, sir. Mr. President, I'd like to know if the newsletter, which Mrs. Guy, and I'm guessing Mr. Sidlow, put together, is that going to be pre-approved before it's sent out on social media through Mrs. Guy's website and our website? Can we add, change, delete, or have suggestions for the newsletter that goes out to our public?
That's that's why I was hoping there was a communications committee to take care of that type of issue.
And they will inform all of council before it goes to the public, or is it an afterthought?
I'll be honest with you, just out of my previous experience, I don't remember seeing any of Mr. Bennett's newsletters prior to distribution for the public.
They were sent out to everyone in council.
Can you prove that, please? I never got it.
I would suggest you contact Mr. Bennett. Like, you want to,
Again,
I'm not going to be argumentative.
I'm just saying from my own recollection, I don't recall that. My recollection may be incorrect, but that was.
What is your pleasure as president of council for the committee to have newsletters distributed in a draft form to all of council for suggestions, corrections, additions? What is your thought, is what I'm asking.
I think that would be a good suggestion.
Thank you.
I mean, I would hope that the communications committee would come to a consensus first, and then it would just be a final review before it's sent out.
Thank you.
Any other unfinished business? Yes, Mayor Roman?
Stepping out of the line or not, but with the communications, can I be put on that?
Yes, you may.
Yes, you may.
And will we ever get Mr. McCready's resume? Because I understand he's on the website as webmaster.
I've given him your email, he'll send it to you.
Thank you. It's only been a couple weeks. I understand it could take time.
I don't remember seeing Mr. Bennett's resume when you hired him for doing the newsletter, even though
All right, we're going to move on.
I think you did because...
We're not going to move...
No, I actually filed a right to know and I didn't receive anything.
Excuse me.
I was told it didn't exist.
We are going to move on. We're not going to dwell in the past. Any other unfinished business? Okay. New business. Delaware Valley Regional Planning Commission presentation. Mr. Sidlow, you want to introduce?
Sure. So I received a map from Lenai Electric earlier last summer indicating our streetlights were last replaced in the winter of 2001 and 2002. We have 114 streetlights. They're high-pressure sodium light bulbs. High-pressure sodium light bulbs tend to fade and have less brightness over time. There's also new technology available that is less expensive to operate, and I think the borough should consider upgrading its streetlights. We are very fortunate in this region that there is an organization called the Delaware Valley Regional Planning Commission. They help coordinate the activities of counties and municipalities that surround Philadelphia. They take care of about 11 counties. And they have developed a streetlight procurement program to help make it easy for the various municipalities to replace the streetlight and also make it more cost-effective. Every year we pay for streetlights, the electricity for streetlights and the maintenance for streetlights out of our liquid fuels budget. We also purchase salt and pay for plowing the roads, any maintenance to the roads, and also in the past we have done road programs every year for the last 20 years since the streetlights were replaced in 2002. So tonight we are fortunate to have the Mike Fuller of Keystone Lighting Solutions, who is the lighting designer and engineer, and Mike will give his better title in just a moment, for the Streetlight Procurement Program from the Delaware Valley Regional Planning Commission. And he has done a free, at no cost, feasibility study to give us a general sense of the feasibility of replacing our streetlights, how much it would cost if we were to purchase them, and to give us some ideas about how we could finance it, whether we could use a straight investment of liquid fuels money, or whether we could finance it over a period of time, and other choices along those lines. As Mike is going to tell us, the Regional Streetlight Procurement Program is a 4-phase program. Phase 1 is at no cost to anybody. It is just simply a feasibility study. And then Phase 2 is lighting design. Phase 3 is replacement of the streetlights. And Phase 4 is reviewing and determining how effective that streetlight replacement has gone. So Mike has, the streetlight procurement program is already in motion and is about to start in the first wave of contracting is coming through in February. So this meeting in January was our last opportunity to join the streetlight replacement program, or we would have had to wait 3 years until the next round of procurement. We can still decide to wait 3 years and decide either tonight or in a few weeks that replacing our streetlight is not the best choice, but the presentation we're going to give us tonight, we're going to receive in just a moment, will give us information about that. So with that, I introduce Mike Fuller of Keystone Lighting Solutions. Thank you, Mike.
Hey, great. There was a presentation that was given out. Does anybody need a copy?
Yeah, if I can get a hard copy, please. You're going to be projecting up there?
Yeah, I'm going to project also.
Mr. Capabianco, could you try to get the small lights?
Yep.
Thank you very much.
Hey, how are you? Good to see you.
He's going to project over here just a
You know
moment.
what, I'm going to
On my left.
Try to
Mr.
project
Fuller.
also.
Mr. Fuller?
Yes.
I'll take a copy. Thank you so much.
It's actually not bad. Okay. So I think Scott gave a good summary. What I'd like to do is walk you through the program briefly, but really get into the feasibility study and show you what the opportunities associated with the streetlight upgrade are. I will just, at the front, just because I think it's useful, the one public comment that I did hear is, why would we pay for LEDs? Because we've been doing that over time. You actually are paying for the LEDs that you have been upgrading. You've just been doing them one at a time as they burn out. So there is a cost associated with what you have been doing. This is the concept of just doing the entire project in one shot, so you get all the savings and the benefits from it in one shot, and you get it, frankly, at a much cheaper rate than you would if you do it just one at a time. But I'll explain more about that in a moment. So why do you even want to look at upgrading streetlights to LED technology? Of course, everybody knows what LEDs are now. Many of you have them in your homes. I just want to point out at the beginning that LED is not a cutting-edge technology. If there's any new construction project that would go on, a shopping mall, a new municipal building, anything like that, the lights are going to be LED. It's just the standard in the industry and has been for many years. It's just that there's a large embedded base of inventory out there of old technology, and the streetlights just, are behind everything else in terms of getting upgraded. So, and that's frankly why DVRPC came up with this program, was to help municipalities get that upgrade and get the benefits. So the primary reason that most municipalities look at LED upgrades is to get the operating cost savings. And basically, you're going to reduce your energy consumption by 50 to 75% of what it is currently. You're also going to reduce your maintenance costs associated with that system by 50 to 80%. I'm going to show you actual numbers for your particular municipality. These are just some general ranges that we see on all projects. You also are going to improve the lighting performance. Most municipalities, after a lighting upgrade, perceive it as an upgrade, that their municipality looks brighter, more well lit. You would be going from a yellow light source, which you currently have, as Scott mentioned, high pressure sodium, to a whiter light source. Now there are variations of white that can be chosen later in the design phase. We can have that discussion to give you options on exactly what color temperature, but basically the human eye sees better under white light than it does under like a yellow light. Cameras for security purposes work better under a white light than under a yellow light. So there's a lot of benefits for that also. LEDs are very controllable, so they actually put light where they're supposed to be, primarily on roadways, and they are better at keeping light trespass from occurring, for example, behind a fixture into somebody's yard, things like that. So those are just some of the benefits that you get out of it. But to be honest, most municipalities are looking at this first for the operating cost savings, but then also for the aesthetics of the upgrade also. So what I do want to highlight is however you end up paying for a project, if you proceed to that point. And again, this first phase, you decided to enter into that through a letter of intent. It was a non-binding letter of intent. I mean, basically, it was more for DVRPC to know that you're interested, so you can piggyback off of all the good procurement efforts that they've done in previous rounds and the negotiated pricing that they have sitting in hand currently. So it's more for their purposes to be able to go back to those manufacturers and say, hey, here's another municipality that wants to participate and benefit from this negotiated pricing. But no matter how you end up with paying for a project, which again, you're not deciding on paying for any projects at this point. This is just whether you want to move on to the design phase, the next step in the process. But this is a project that pays you back. Because there are cost savings, whether you finance it or you do a capital expenditure, use liquid fuel funds, whatever the combination could be, we're generating savings along the way. And I'm going to show you that this is a net savings project for you. Unlike other things that you have to do, like paving and other things like that, they don't give you an economic return like the streetlights are going to actually, they're going to fund themselves. This project will be funding itself over time. Okay? And as a matter of fact, it creates a surplus for the municipality. So the net savings from the project are additional funds that could be used for other purposes. DVRPC recognized probably about 5 or 6 years ago, I believe it was, that many municipalities didn't have all the resources to do an entire streetlight upgrade in a single project, or they just maybe couldn't purchase all the materials and the services that go with that as at low a cost as they could if they went through a scaled combined effort with many municipalities. So they put together all the capabilities, including technical design assistance, which is from my firm. And by the way, I do want to mention that I was competitively selected by DVRPC to be the round 2 design professional. We were the technical advisor to DVRPC in round 1, and then we competitively fought for the job of the round 2 design professional. So,
And this is round 3 now.
yeah, we're in round 3. Yep. But we were selected for round 2, and we're carrying our contracts carrying over to round 3.
Correct.
Yep. So just to give you an idea, you would be in round 3. Round 1 was 35 municipalities. Round 2 was 26 municipalities. So there's 60 municipalities that have gone through this program already and benefited from all the benefits I'm going to show you here. So that represents over 40,000 streetlights between those 2 rounds, and you can see in round 1 that there was $15.3 million in net savings that are going to be generated over the next 20 years for those 35 municipalities in round 1. We're getting similar savings out of round 2, we just haven't calculated those yet. We are finishing up round 2 right now. Actually, Chester is, we're just starting next week, and that's the final and our largest project in round 2. Okay? So this is a very tried and true approach that we've used 60 times over now. I do want to mention that because when we look at the project cost, it's something that if you were going solo on this, you'd have to go through your own procurement efforts. You don't have to do that with this program. Via Chapter 19 of the Pennsylvania Procurement Act, you're able to piggyback off of the DVRPC's procurement efforts up to this point, and those procurement efforts procure the materials. They procure the installation costs. They procure the markup from the distributor that's involved with it. So everything's been competitively selected, and the lowest, best value products and services and solutions were all handled by DVRPC in their procurement effort. Okay? By the way, we did mention liquid fuel funds. We can talk about that later. The procurement effort is approved by liquid fuel funds. They're fully aware of this. Many municipalities have used liquid fuel funds for paying for portions of this project, and so they're familiar with that. And frankly, we have helped submit applications for many municipalities through this program, and they have received those approvals. Okay. So let's talk about the 4-phase approach, which Scott highlighted also. So feasibility phase, again, no cost to you. It's just to give you the sense of the opportunity that's available by doing this type of LED conversion. Actually, DVRPC does pay for this. They have a cost associated with it. They're paying my firm to do these feasibility studies, but DVRPC is paying for that directly. They are not trying to get that reimbursed from the municipalities. Once we get to phase 2, that's the design phase, so traditional design phase. And that would be what you would be deciding via resolution if you want to move on to the design phase. And then phase 3 is actually construction. Phase 4 is post-construction, which is basically documentation of the project and also verification of the savings on your PICO bill primarily that you're getting those savings. Okay. In phases 2 through 4, and this is part of the resolution, you would actually be entering into an agreement directly with KLS, because that's how it should work. I should be working directly for you as part of a traditional project process. That's what you would do for any large project you would consider. Okay, and that's part of the resolution to move you to phase 2, is it authorize entering into that professional services agreement. Okay. So we did create a 40-page feasibility study for you. And I should mention, in the feasibility phase, we don't, there are no audits at that point, because that's part of phase 2. And frankly, that's a large part of the cost of phase 2 is actually doing GIS-based audits, so we locate every fixture in the municipality. But the The feasibility phase is driven by information that's readily available, like from PICO bills. And so we gather that information and utilize that to come up with the feasibility assessment. We find the feasibility assessments end up being very accurate to what the final project looks like, so you can have great confidence that the savings and the benefits and the costs, which frankly we already know all the costs because they're negotiated, the costs are right in line. The only reason that anything would change from feasibility to the final project would be is if scope changes. So we do an audit and we find fewer or more fixtures that can change slightly the scope, but that typically does not occur in any large percentage. So we do have this feasibility study, but this PowerPoint summarizes all the key findings. So this is what you currently have in the municipality based on, Scott mentioned in number 114. PICO actually thinks you have one additional fixture, 115 on the PICO bill. 7 of those are already LEDs that Lenai did over a long period of time prior. But the upgrade that we would be recommending is that you upgrade 108 of those, the non-LED Cobra heads, and you would upgrade those to LED technology. Okay? Just so everybody knows, you just take off the head, put on a new fixture, the arm stays, the wiring stays. Unless we find bad wiring, then we have contingency that's carried on the project to handle like rewires and things like that. Okay? So this is the primary recommendation in the feasibility study. What I do want to highlight is what's not included. We did not include Edgemont Avenue, primarily because we believe it's already LED and therefore does not need to be upgraded. Woodlot, we also in the design phase would research that more. Those seem to be pretty new fixtures also and are likely LED, so they would not be in the project scope. Okay. So it's really these guys, these Cobra heads, that we want to go after. We will talk in the feasibility study also about controls, but again, there's no decisions at this point other than if you want to move to phase 2, but there are control options. LEDs are more controllable, so you can do manual controls, which is like a little dimmer inside the fixture that allows you in the future to increase or decrease the light level if necessary. So if you have an intersection where you decide, hey, you know, we now need a little more light here, you could go make that adjustment. Or if there's some other reason that you need a little less light, you could do that also. That's a low-cost method of having some control in the future, but you have to go back to the fixture to do that. There are many municipalities that look at network control systems. Those are more sophisticated control systems that allow you to manage and monitor your lighting system through a mesh network that basically goes up to the cloud, and then you can go onto any tablet or computer and actually see your entire lighting system. The primary reason that municipalities look at the network control system is it can generate proactive reports for outages, so you don't have to wait till a resident calls about an outage. Some municipalities' residents are great about that, so you don't need that benefit. Other municipalities, you know, they want to know as soon as possible that there's a knockdown or a light that's out or something like that, and this system would tell you all of that. So I'll show you the pricing on those options. Again, we're not deciding on any project options at this point. We're just trying to build awareness of what the options are. You do have one traffic signal or one intersection with traffic signals. PICO believes you have 27 existing LED and incandescent traffic signal lamps there. Only 9 of them are incandescent. In the feasibility study, we included upgrading those 9 to LED. We'll get to the audit. We may find that they're already all LED.
The yellow lights are still incandescent.
The yellow lights.
Only because they're only on for literally a second.
Right. Yep. So so we included in the feasibility study what PICO believes are incandescent right now, and so they're in the study also, but obviously a very small portion of the study. So before we get into the actual financials of the feasibility study, I do want to mention the program through DVRPC. They do offer financing associated with the projects, and that's to allow the savings to pay for all or a portion of your loan payments. And we don't know which model we're going to use yet because there's been 2 used, different ones in round 1 and round 2. The one we really prefer is the round 2 approach, which is what we call the county conduit model. And that's where the county actually takes out a general obligation debt from Delval, and they in turn give you a subject to appropriation loan, so it doesn't go against your debt limits, or you don't have to go through the LAGUDA process for approval. You just have a subject to appropriation loan with the county, and so, you know, once we see who all is in phase 2, then we will, you know, figure out what the financing is that we can get in place. Again, if the counties, which we don't have any reason to believe that they wouldn't be supportive like they were in round 2, that's probably what we prefer to do, is the county conduit model again. We mentioned liquid fuel funds. So liquid fuel funds, they do have restrictions on what they can use the funds for, but fortunately the COBRA heads that I mentioned earlier, that is a qualified use of liquid fuel funds. They'll pay for the material and the labor. If you actually take out a loan, they'll also pay for 10% of engineering fees. So it depends how you structure the financing as to how much liquid fuel funds you can use, but we just want to mention that it is a large portion of the project could be paid for with liquid fuel funds. Okay. So here are the financials. The first row called base upgrade. So that's just doing an upgrade of the COBRA heads and those 9 traffic signal lamps. The COBRA heads would just have a basic photocell on it, which is what all your current streetlights have. Turns lights on and off at dusk and dawn. The annual operating cost savings associated with that are about $2,800 per year. That would be on your PICO bill, and also maintenance savings associated compared to what you're paying now. The total net project cost, and I use the word net because this is net of a PICO rebate. You do get a rebate for doing this project, so it's the cost less the amount you would receive in a PICO check. So for the base upgrade, we're right at about $30,000. That's about a 10-year payback if you do the math there. If you were to finance the project, you'd have some minor closing costs, but interest costs primarily. The project cost would go up to $34,000. But that's using a very high conservative interest rate for the feasibility study. We would anticipate having lower interest charges as we go through the design phase and calculate a final number. The middle column there, base upgrade plus manual controls, that is the option where you add in that in-fixture dimmer. You'll see that the savings are about the same because the wattages of the fixtures end up being the same once we set it to the level we want it at. The net project cost actually shows it being less. The material costs are a little bit higher, but the rebates from PICO in that scenario are a little bit higher, and actually higher than the increase in material costs. So the net project cost is less. So they actually are almost, PICO's incentivizing you to do at least the manual controls. So that's about a 10-year payback, and you can see $33,000 with the interest costs if you were to finance that. You'll notice with the base upgrade for network controls, you do actually get to go to a different PICO tariff, so the energy savings are even greater. You jump up to $4,000 in annual operating cost savings, but the price tag goes up considerably with that. So you have to see value in that network control system of the monitoring and the management of the system. But the project cost net of the rebate is $54,000, so it's about a 13-year payback for that. Okay. Keep in mind, once you've been paid back for the project, paybacks are really good to look at if you're doing a capital expenditure. I'll show you cash flows that are a better representation of how the project looks if you finance it. Okay. This is way too small to go through details. So the only thing I want to highlight here is this is the same financials just blown out with more detail. I've already made the points that I want to here, that there is a higher energy cost savings with the network controls. You do have some higher material costs with the either the control options, but the rebates go up for both of those control options. So really that's for your reference in the future. So let's look at some cash flows quickly. So the first cash flow here is doing the base upgrade. Again, no special advanced controls. We looked at this, our industry standard, or the program standard is to create 5-year cash flows at a very conservative rate. We're using 3.5%. If we were to do the county conduit model, it's probably more in the 1 to 1.5% range that we would be looking at, so much lower rate, but we just haven't locked that in yet. So we always like to show this conservative measure. And you can see here that you have your energy savings in the, I'm going to use my cursor here to point out. Basically, you have that, that savings, the energy and maintenance cost savings are the first two columns there. And they add up to about $2,800 in total savings. You do get a rebate of, I got to look off my sheet also. I don't think I called out that number specifically, but you do get a rebate of about $6,200. That'll be a check from PICO that is sent to you. That's this number here. The bottom line with the cash flows is to show that if you were to finance this over 5 years, you would have a loan payment of about $8,000, but the benefit is that you're offsetting a portion of that $8,000 with your energy cost savings for those 5 years, so you reduce the amount of outlay to about $5,200 that you would have to cover above the cost savings that you have to make the loan payments. And then, of course, after the loan is done, you get all the savings right to the bottom line. So the number in the lower right is an interesting one. After 20 years, you'd be generating a surplus of $22,000 in net savings after all the loan costs and interest loan payments are made. So as I mentioned earlier, this does pay back for itself and creates a surplus of savings for you. We do like to show a second. This isn't in the feasibility study because it's not our standard that we give to all municipalities, but it is a likely scenario that we would see and we would define better in phase 2. And here we're using a lower interest rate of 1.5%, and we're extending the term out to 10 years. So now when you do that, and if you apply a portion of capital of $11,000, which could, for example, come from liquid fuel funds, now you've created a scenario where you have a positive cash flow. If you look at the final column, every year of the loan, you actually are not having to pay out any additional money for those 10 years. And then, of course, after the 10 years, you get all the 100% of the savings. So again, it generates about the same amount of net savings. In this case, it's $24,000 over that 20-year period. Okay. And just, I'll go through these quickly. We did the cash flows also for the manual controls with the 5-year and the 3.5% interest rate, the very conservative rate. You can see that, again, the savings are offsetting a portion of the loan payments, not all of them. But when you look at it over 10 years with a lower interest rate, which we'd be able to achieve if we can do the county conduit model, now you can see that, again, we've created, with a little bit of capital contribution associated with the project, again, possibly from liquid fuel funds, create a situation where you're not paying anything additional every year out of pocket for the project. Okay? And then we do the same for the network controls, and I'll just jump to the 10-year at 1.5%. And again, you know, we basically what we're doing is we're doing the math to figure out how much of a capital contribution do you have to put into it up front to be able to have positive cash flow during all the years of the loan term. So in this case, you would be paying about $28,000 down to achieve that, that you don't have any net cash outflow during the loan term. I do want to mention, I calculated these numbers specifically because Scott had mentioned the possibility of liquid fuel funds. These little numbers up here, which in this case on the network control, the last cash flow, we're calculating that $26,000 would be eligible for liquid fuel funds. That's the greatest usage of liquid fuel funds that you could, and you know, if you go back to the base upgrade, you would not, well, you would only need like $11,000 of liquid fuel funds to get that positive cash flow for on the cash flow, but $26,000 of the $27,000 of the construction costs would be eligible for liquid fuel funds. My understanding is you have about $54,000 a year in liquid fuel funds. So in none of these scenarios are if you wanted to use liquid fuel funds, which again, you're not deciding tonight, you know, we talk about all these issues again in detail in the phase 2 design phase. But it is a possibility is all we're trying to show, you know. So in no way would this be, you know, utilizing all your liquid fuel funds. And you can choose how much liquid fuel funds. You can say, I only want to put 11,000 to get to that positive cash flow with the base upgrade. You could say, I want to do 5,000. I want to, or you could do a loan and you could have the liquid fuel funds pay for a portion of the annual loan, the qualified portion. So we can break up the loan into the liquid fuel fund qualified portion and the non qualified portion. Okay. So just to wrap up here, I appreciate your patience. I know it's a lot of information, but what is phase 2? So phase 2 is, I've already mentioned or alluded to some of these. This is where we do the investment grade audit. We actually have auditors come in, they do a comprehensive GIS-based audit to identify what fixtures you actually do have in the municipality and figure out what wattages they actually are. Often the PICO bill is not 100% accurate. It's usually pretty good, but it's never 100% to what we find during an audit. So we use the audit information then to do an appropriate design. We design, this is your one opportunity. I mean, these fixtures have a life of, the manufacturer rating will indicate over a 30-year life on the LED fixtures. Okay, they actually will throw out numbers much higher than that, but I'm afraid to even quote a number like above 40, but a lot of their lifespans are like over 40 years. But you should expect to get 20 to 30 years out of the new LED fixtures. They all carry 10-year warranties. The current fixtures you buy that you have installed now, the older technology, you get a 1-year warranty if you were to replace it with the same technology. That shows you how much longer the LEDs last, is because no manufacturer will give you a 10-year warranty if they think the average life of it is only 15 years or 12 years. They would be losing too much money having that type of warranty. Usually if they give you a 10-year warranty, they're expecting it to last 2, 3, 4 times longer than that expected warranty period. But in the design phase, we will, because this is your one chance for the next 20, 30 years with these fixtures, we do an appropriate design. We design to the roadway class. We look at all your roadway classes, and we determine what is the right fixture and illumination levels to put on each roadway type, local, collector, and major. A lot of municipalities over time have just become very unstandardized in their lighting system. We get it back to a very standardized, appropriate design, and we really have been using effectively in all 60 municipalities, prior municipalities, pretty much the same standards, and they've worked very, very well. And that's backed up with some, good design efforts to prove that out. The procurement's already completed. We take care of all the rebate, reservation of funds in phase 2. So if we do go to construction, the funds are already there for you. But basically, we come up with the final project specification, and at that moment, that's when you would decide to, via resolution, decide if you want to go on to construction. Okay, so that timing is more in late spring, early summer. So the design phase basically would start next week through April, May, June, that time frame when you would decide if you want to move on to construction. Okay. This gives you a sense of the GIS database that's created. There's great maps, but more importantly, there's a great data set. Frankly, when you see the dollar amount that's associated with phase 2 design, many municipalities view that it's worth it just to get this data. So if you do not go through to construction, you would own all this data from the audit. Okay. So the next steps are, certainly if there's any questions on what I'm presenting here, I can answer those. But the next step, and you guys are the at the very end of, we're going to start phase 2 next week. So this was really a strong effort to do this feasibility study very quickly, so you could consider being part of this round of the program. But so you do have a resolution to move on to phase 2, and just so you know, the third bullet point here, I already mentioned that part of that resolution would allow you to enter into a contract with KLS. The total cost of round 2, so this is the only amount that you'd be committing to by going on to phase 2, is $2,414. And that includes not only KLS fees, but also there's some program fees from DVRPC that we bill for them, just because they don't have a mechanism to do that invoicing. It's a pass-through cost, but that's the cost of doing the audit, the design, giving you the final project specification. And the reason that's a relatively low number, not that any dollar is invaluable, it's because you're part, just like all the, I failed to mention this, the costs of all the materials and the services are very, very low, because we've basically done procurement on behalf of, the procurement was done for round 2, assuming 26 municipalities. So you're benefiting from the size and the scale of the round 2. We went to manufacturers and said, hey, we have millions of dollars that this program is going to spend in round 2, and they gave us very aggressive pricing based on that. That's the same for our services also. You know, our services are priced assuming that we've been working with, you know, dozens of municipalities. So, but that's, as you look at your decision to go on to phase 2, that's the financial amount that you're committing to, is that $2,400. So with that, you know, we would kick off phase 2 in the next week or so, and then phase 3 approval would be March through May, somewhere in there. We'd have the final project specification come back to you, and you would decide if you want to move on to construction or not. So with that, I can answer any questions for you, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
I have a question. So,
Yep.
so if they decide not to do phase 2, does phase 1 cost us anything?
No, no. It's been paid for by DVRPC.
And you said that the council members already knew of the money would come out of the liquid fuel?
No, I didn't say
Okay, I
that.
thought you said something about they know that it can come out of the liquid fuel.
Oh, we do know.
Monies can come out of there
We,
to pay.
we know that it's an eligible utilization of liquid fuel funds because it's been done many times before.
Okay.
Yeah. So PennDOT's approved that for other projects,
Okay.
all the way back to round 1.
I thought you said that the council knew of that.
No.
Mr. President,
Yes,
how
Mr.
does
Moore.
this bypass our requirement to get like 3 bids for contract work over like 18,000?
That's under the Pennsylvania Procurement Act, Chapter 19, you're able to piggyback off of DVRPC's procurement effort.
And they've
So-
already done it. So you were the low bidder for this contract, and then it's apportioned out to the municipalities as you sell it?
No. We were selected by DVRPC anytime that they receive a municipality request to be involved in the program, then we go into action and do the feasibility study, the DVRPC phase 4, and then we would do the services associated with 2 through 4. So we're not selling anything. We're here as a professional services organization to just help design lighting fixtures to be the safest and most energy efficient.
And that's the real advantage to participating in this program, is the group procurement. You know, how many are in round 3? How many municipalities?
26.
26 municipalities in round 3. So 26 municipalities are purchasing the same thing all together at the same time, as opposed to Parkside Borough with its 114 streetlights trying to go out and purchase them
Right.
on our own. Not only do we not have the technical resources to do that, the costs are much lower. And if I can say that, in the past, former President Percival would say that it was about $50,000 from Lenai Electric to replace all the streetlights. We just saw a budget estimate of $30,000 for option 1 and option 2. So the group procurement that this program is offering to our municipality is a really practical way of making a purchase.
Well, Mr. Sidlow, actually, the cost would be $34,281 or $33,504, and then I understand.
If we finance it, if we pay cash, it's 30.
And then I understand phase 1, 2, and 3 is an additional $5,413, is that correct?
No, any project cost that we show you is encompassing of all the
All
costs.
totals?
So when I show you the $2,400 for the phase 2 cost,
Yes.
that's part of the total project cost that we represented.
So that's, according to your information, we would have to start with your DSP service item number for phase, I'm guessing it's phase 1 or 2.
Phase 2.
Of $2,414. We
That's
would have to pay that up front.
You do not pay it up front. We bill you at the end of the phase.
You bill us
Yeah.
individually for each phase, and this does
Yes.
not include lights, any additional wiring. I mean, those costs are separate from the actual product.
We really feel that what we're representing here is a total encompassing project cost because, for example, for the costs that you see here are essentially for 3 things. KLS services for design, project management, all the way through post-construction. DVRPC has some program fees they're all in here. And then there's the contractor fees. So we've selected a contractor, Armour and Sons, that is was our round 2 contractor for all 26 municipalities. They're going to be our round 3 contractor. Basically, we just extended all the contracts from round 2 to round 3. So all those costs would be in it. Specifically so all the fixtures, all the labor, all that's included in every project cost I've shown you. Plus, we're carrying in the base upgrade $3,600 of contingency, and that is to cover the rewiring costs and things like that. We have shown over time that carrying 5 to 10% contingency, we're carrying 10% in the feasibility study, covers those very few rewires that we come across during a project. So we actually feel that we have those unintended costs also covered in the feasibility study.
What about that incident in which the light LEDs shine differently than the sodium vapors do? And we need additional lights in specific areas. Do you also come in and put more poles, light heads, conduits, wiring in?
We typically do a little bit of that. If there's a municipality that says this is clearly a dark area or an intersection where we need to have more light, the first thing we'll try to do is address it in the design phase by just putting a larger fixture there.
Okay.
Because maybe there's a fixture that's in the right location, it just doesn't put out enough light, and that's a very low cost way of getting more light. If we have a stretch that there's like 300 feet on a roadway and there's no fixture there,
Right.
then yes, we do add lights, and often they're covered by contingency also. If you decide to, add 10% more lights, which we don't have municipalities really do that, that would probably be above and beyond the contingency. We're willing to do that, but it would be a change order at that point. But primarily, 99% of our project is a 1-for-1 replacement.
So there's actually no total cost factor if lights needed to be added, because I understand of the way the LED shines down versus sodium vapor.
The way that basically, an individual LED replacement is going to perform better than the old fixture. So there's no need for additional fixtures, but we also don't make the claim that we're going to reduce fixtures, because your Pico's decided where your light fixtures are. You didn't get to make that decision. So all the spacing is defined. They're usually pretty far apart. You do have dark spots between poles. We're not going to completely fix that. We'll improve it, but again, it's pretty much a 1-for-1 replacement. Our goal is to meet or exceed what you currently have, not to massively change it.
Let me ask you one more. I read in your brochure or your PR piece that you recommend a 5% retainage that is required. Could you explain that?
Retainage is typical for any construction project. Actually, the contract, if we were to get to the phase 3 decision, whether you want to go to construction, it's a 10% retainage.
10%?
Is actually kept in the contract until the contractor bills 50% of the project, then it goes down to 5%. So it starts at 10, but they bill out materials at the beginning of the project, so usually they get to that 5% retainage level. But that 5% retainage is held all the way through the end of the project. I, as your hired design professional, review all the pay applications from the contractor, make sure that they've completed the work, and we're the ones that make the recommendation to you that, yes, they've completed everything, we can release the retainage, which is a typical construction process.
For one of let's just look at the base upgrade with the 10-year term financing.
Yep.
So, and if I understand this correctly, if we put 11,000 from the liquid fuels up front.
Or from any other source.
Or from
Could be
any,
general
okay.
funds.
And then every year after that, so the first year, we would be over $6,000 would be coming in.
Yeah.
And then from there on, it would be $54 a year. And then after 10 years, over $2,000 a year.
Yeah, the best way to look at that is that in that first year, because of the rebate, yes, you do have a net cash flow, I would say, of $6,300. But in years 2 through 10, where you have the loan in place, the savings, which are occurring, maybe the same account, because if you're paying your PICO bill from liquid fuels,
right.
It may just be offsetting, but the savings, energy and maintenance exceed the loan payment. So from the municipality level, you would have a break even essentially, or a $54, net
Right,
savings.
so basically, with putting in the 11,000 up front,
Yeah.
every year for the 10-year loan, we would be making at least $54 a year,
Yeah.
roughly.
Yeah, the savings would exceed the loan payment by $54 a week. Yeah.
Can you do me a favor and look at page 24 on your presentation?
Yep.
And I'm looking at the cash flow analysis,
Yes.
the project summary. The construction cost is $52,056.
Yes.
And you look at the program fees, et cetera, and it comes out to the total project cost of $65,372.
Okay,
Am I reading that correct?
I believe so.
And the loan rate would be 3.50%?
That's the very conservative rate we're using, yes. But
Okay.
we
So-
anticipated it
This
would be
is
less.
the 1.5%,
1.5.
which is what it was for the round two.
But do we know what the percentage is right now? Because the feds just raised the interest rate?
Yeah, if you look at Del Val's site, which the county conduit model would use, you can go look at that. They publicly put it out there, and the 10-year rate is, I think it's shy of 1.5%.
1.5 now.
So these rates have not changed significantly. There's no project, no engineer, anybody that will commit to, the interest rate is not locked in until you close.
Okay.
So we continue to try to be conservative, and even when we go through phase 2, at the end of phase 2, we're gonna look at the rates again, and we're gonna take the current rate and we're gonna buffer it. We're gonna add more to it to be conservative, because there's probably gonna be another 30, 60 days after you approve it that we actually close. Yeah, but Del Val can lock in the rates like 30 to 45 days ahead of closing.
That's
so-
what I was concerned about, because you're showing an interest rate for a 5-year term is at 3.50.
Which is higher than the 10-year, but what I'm trying to show you, DVRPC requires us to give every municipality the same standard cash flow. And so we've decided on a very conservative 5-year term, pretty short, and a very high interest rate, 3.5%. But I have the flexibility in a presentation to show you what could be more likely for your type of project. Probably a 10-year, which is the maximum we can do, is probably where we'd end up in phase 2. So we're just trying to show you.
How do
all the
most
options.
municipalities finance it?
So most municipalities do not finance. I'd say 20% do,
Pay cash.
And I would say, all I can say is definitely less than 50%, so I'm gonna guess like 20%, as I just said. And probably it's the same number for liquid fuels, maybe even lower, maybe only 20% are using liquid fuel funds to do that. I know Chester, they're financing and using liquid fuel funds. So they're actually using an amount from your liquid fuel funds every year, which that's something you have to keep in mind, is if you look at the loan payments, and let's say 80% of that is eligible for liquid fuel funds, well, now you're only just taking a little bit out of liquid fuel funds every year.
Right. Instead of all at once.
Instead of all at once. But some municipalities are sitting on a surplus, and they're like, we want to do it all at once. Others are like, no, we're tight, we already have that all committed, but we'd like to use some of it, so they do it via the loan payment method. I will tell you that one thing I just want to be clear on, and again, these are more phase 2 detailed discussions, but PennDOT does feel that if you use their funds for this project, that rebate check, they expect you to put that as a reimbursement back to the liquid fuel funds account. It's still a valid check you're getting, and but they.
Should be in liquid fuels.
Yeah, they expect that to go to liquid fuels.
You betcha.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, it's okay.
Well, we're done.
I would like to say that Upland has just completed its streetlight project, and every night when I drive to pick up my daughter at Northley, and you can, as I drive down Beechwood Road to where it turns into Church Street in Upland, you can see a significant difference in the quality of light as you move from Parkside into Upland. And I encourage everyone to do that and to drive down Beechwood into Church and see how the light changes, or preferably even walk in the evening time, take your dog out for a walk and try that out. I think you'll see that the quality of light, the performance of the light is really much nicer. I think it adds security if you believe that lighting is helpful for security. I think it adds that as well. I also think that we're very fortunate, I said this already, but we're very fortunate that we have the opportunity to participate in a program like this, that it's available. I'm sure there's other parts of the state and the country that don't have the ability to use a regional entity to help us with what could be a difficult problem for a small borough like ourselves. So the opportunity to use the Regional Planning Commission as the way to get this upgrade to our infrastructure, the same way we upgrade the infrastructure of our streets every year. The streetlights are also infrastructure that needs to be replaced at some point. If we were to make this decision now and we're the last 25, 30 years, that's a real great piece of way of improving the borough of Parkside, and that's why I have pushed so strongly for a lighting upgrade, not only for the streetlights, but for the lights in the room here as well.
Mr. Sidlow, you've pushed for 2 years to have this done. It's been tabled indefinitely several times, and I've got the dates if you'd like me to mention
Right, well, that
them.
was a previous council. We have a new council, everything resets, it's a new government.
We have members of council going back and discussing what Mr. Bennett did. But I'd like to know, you cannot compare us with Upland because of the money factor. That's
Well,
why.
I'm just comparing the lighting in Upland, the
I
lights.
understand that, and they have the money to replace their lights and not have to take a loan.
Well, I believe we have the money as well.
would have to take a loan.
Well, we have, look, we currently have $86,000 budgeted under liquid fuels this year. We have $25,000 or $30,000 remaining from last year, and we're scheduled to get, what'd you say, $56,000?
No, that's not.
54 is what
It
I see
would-
on the public site for annual.
And it will go down because it was mentioned at the end of last year. Liquid fuels will not be what it was this prior year. It continually goes down by 5 to 7%.
Sure.
So we need to take money out of liquid fuels so that we don't do a road program or pay for the salt or pay for the electricity to run the LED lights.
Right, well,
And that's all been discussed for the last 2 years.
right, so.
Again, as I said to you initially, this does not surprise me that you attempted to do this again.
Okay, well, I make no apologies for doing this. I was advised by the solicitor that I was not doing anything wrong.
Can we,
Yes, I was going to say, can we move
can I have a
on?
motion to,
Can I just say one thing?
any other,
Just real quick, I was skeptical about this whole streetlight thing, and I wanted to make sure that I did my due diligence, and I called several other boroughs that went through the program, and spoke to secretaries and treasurer and managers from those boroughs. So Brookhaven I called, cited reduced maintenance calls, more illumination. The secretary, he said there was no issues with the cost. The borough secretary and trainer said it was, quote, well worth it, quote, more pluses than minuses. The Lansdowne borough manager said, quote, guaranteed energy savings, quote, the maintenance was likely to go away completely. It's, quote, good quality. The borough manager in Collingdale said they were having issues with lighting being aimed at people's houses. They were able to change that and direct the lighting differently, and also almost completely did away with maintenance costs. So I just want people to know that I realize this is a lot of money. And I reached out to other boroughs to see what they had thought about it.
Thank you for that diligence, Michael, I appreciate that.
Any other comments?
I've truly never been on the other side of the argument, but I think with reorganization and just settling accounts and doing things like that, I prefer we tabled it until next month.
We can't, there's a deadline for being included in this particular phase. We'd have to wait how many years?
Yeah, we really were looking to close out municipal decisions in December, but we made exceptions for you and one other municipality if we could do this in January. I don't know if DVRPC will have a phase 4 or not. We kind of said phase 3 was probably the last phase, but they are talking about a phase 4, but I can't guarantee that, nor can I say the timing of that at this point.
That seems kind of odd.
Why is that? We've done 60 municipalities. Basically, we're getting lower and lower the number of municipalities that are participating. So at some point, we can't keep going to manufacturers and asking them to treat us like a larger scale project if we can only come back with like 3 or 4 municipalities. So we've gone from 35 to 26. A lot of the major municipalities have done this on their own. We basically have gotten to the point where most of the municipalities that want to do this have either done it on their own or they've done it through our program. And so we're getting to the end of.
And I agree, and we've been doing most of it on our own as far as the wood lot, you know, across the Edgemont corridor as far as squaring those areas away and taking care of other things. So it's not necessarily against your firm, it's just, it's not entirely compelling as far as jumping on quickly when we're doing the upgrades, and I don't think that we're spending, you know, an absurd amount of money to get the upgrades taken care of. So the only reason I asked to possibly table it for a month is because we have a brand new solicitor, we have a brand new accounting firm, we have a whole lot of things like that. There was even questions about what our gross, you know, our general account ledger is as far as that goes. So why would you enter into an agreement for a loan for a few other things like that? And I've never been on the other side of it, but I also never knew there was a term of light trespass. And then, you know, so I do have, like, I had a question for our engineer that was basically directed, like, if we're not satisfied, because, you know, I drive through Chester at 5 in the morning to get to work, and I noticed that their lights are just a little bit more, I don't know how you would say it, but you can definitely tell that there's bright spots, dark spots, bright spots, and it has a definite different feel, and I don't know if the people in Chester are as happy as perhaps the people in Upland or Brookhaven, or what type of clawback we would have with your company. Like, I know we can kind of hold Catania Engineering's feet to the fire and be like, hey, look, can you come up with a reasonable thing for this? Can you go to the pre-construction meetings? Can you do this? And they have been a fantastic steward for our borough for years, and it seems like they're not a part of this project.
Yeah, we've actually, Catania has been offered to participate in every municipality that they're involved with, like Eddystone, which we just completed, so.
We did go through this with a couple other municipalities, and I've been back and forth with Mike on a few of them, and every step of the way, if we had an opinion about certain areas where light levels were low and the borough wanted to put a higher light level, it will certainly look at that and see if that design makes sense. So they do hear our input when the borough raises questions like that.
Well, there's just a couple
I have
of
to agree with the Vice President. We've been replacing these lights at $432 a piece as they go out. And to take more money away from other projects to participate in this program, I mean, everybody knows how I feel about it.
But-
And we've been struggling for 2
So
years
we're
with
19
this.
days into the new year. We're a relatively new council. We're still trying to figure out where we are, what we're doing, who's getting along with who can't get along with who. We don't have a borough secretary. We still have 2 potholes on Edgemont Avenue. We're basically being held tonight to make a decision on something that I don't think we're prepared to move forward with.
Well, we're only making a $2,400 decision tonight. We're not making a $30,000 decision tonight.
It's not my money to throw away.
That's
Well,
not the
let's
point.
vote.
Well,
You signed
I-
you signed a survey agreement, which whether the solicitor thinks is against the Sunshine Law or not, you signed that January 7th. This council reorganized January 3rd. So it took you only 4 days to review the program, sign the survey agreement, send them all the information, which you did copy everyone. I will commend you on that. And you did that in 4 days. You didn't give us an opportunity, the rest of council, has just to go back and look. We had to research this on our own again.
Well, I believe the council's given the opportunity to understand the program.
Make a motion, we vote.
Yeah,
I
let's vote.
have one quick question. On all of your projections,
Yeah.
maintenance cost savings
Yes.
of 1,163, where's that figure coming from?
So basically what we do is we look at your existing lighting system. We know how long the components last, ballast, lamps, things like that. So we can, and we know what the cost of replacement is because we look at the, you know, the trip cost of a maintenance contractor, Lenai, to come out and do that replacement. So we calculate your existing maintenance costs, and then we do that same thing for the LED system.
Okay.
And we do factor in that you know, that somewhere down the road you need to replace that fixture, but it's way down the road. So we compare those two. We factor in the 10-year warranty associated with the equipment, and then so that's all calculated.
Okay.
The PICO savings, on the other hand, I do want to mention it's all unmetered. So pretty much what PICO believes you have now is what you're billed now. We work very well with PICO. We do all the bill updates. And when we tell them what was installed, that's what they accept, and they just calculate the new energy costs. So I would say that the energy costs are based on PICO formulas, and there's really no.
I was just curious.
Wiggle.
I was more curious about
Yeah.
the maintenance
Yeah.
cost savings.
Yeah.
Okay, so who made the motion to?
I did, made the motion.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Does that mean the motion to table is not?
Okay, so just to be clear, we have a motion to vote on Resolution 1848, which is to move forward with Phase 2 of the light procurement at a cost of $2,414. Am I correct as far as the motion in the second?
Yes.
Okay.
Want me to do roll call?
Yes, if you would, please.
Councilman Codskin.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you, Kim.
Sorry. Councilman Codskin.
Yes.
Councilwoman Guy.
Yes.
Councilman Powers.
No.
Councilwoman Percival.
No.
Councilman Sidlow.
Yes.
Vice President Bull.
I guess my motion to table is shot down.
Yep.
Vote no.
President Swaggart.
Because of the situations with the new council and what's going on with the project that we have to do on Edgemont Avenue, it's just bad time, and I'm going to have to vote no. Moving on, Resolution 1849. This is to appoint a temporary deputy tax collector for a period of time to not extend beyond March 31st. We are looking to appoint Sarah Haynes as deputy tax collector for that time with the approval. What's that? The whole? Okay. So Section 551122 of the Pennsylvania Local Tax Collection Law authorizes tax collectors with the approval of the taxing district and is surety, is that how we pronounce it? Surety, thank you. To deputize in writing and a deputy tax collector who, when so deputized, shall be authorized to receive and collect any and all of the taxes in like manner and with like authority as tax collector appointing them, and whereas the Borough Council of the Borough of Parkside deems it advisable for a deputy tax collector to be appointed in order to maintain continuity in the operations of the tax collector's office in the event that the duly elected tax collector should be unable to serve, and whereas the duly elected tax collector for the Borough of Parkside, Ed Fisher, proposes to appoint in writing Sarah Haynes as deputy tax collector until March 31st of 2022. Now therefore, the Borough Council of the Borough of Parkside does hereby resolve as follows. The appointment of Sarah Haynes as deputy tax collector for the collection of all borough taxes shall be collectible by the duly elected tax collector is hereby approved, subject to the approval of Mr. Fisher's surety. Mr. Fisher shall be responsible for and account to the Borough of Parkside for all taxes received and collected by Sarah Haynes when acting in the capacity of deputy tax collector as required by Section 511.2 of the Pennsylvania Local Tax Collection Law. All resolutions or parts of resolutions that are inconsistent with this resolution shall be and hereby are repealed to the extent of such inconsistency. This resolution shall be in effect as the date of adoption. Do I have a motion to?
So moved.
Any questions?
Does Mr. Fisher know Ms. Haynes?
Personally, I am not aware if Mr. Fisher knows
Well,
Ms. Haynes.
he plays out of commission right now, right?
He goes into surgery beginning of February.
Oh, okay.
I can send him an email.
Okay.
I'll bring you down to his house.
You want to do that?
Yeah.
Okay, never mind.
Harry, I can
Okay.
bring her down to introduce him.
It says right here, he has to affirm her as his dignitary. So, I'll second the motion, but they should make some kind of.
So who first made the motion? Okay.
Would you like me to do a
Yes,
roll
please.
call? Okay, Councilman Costigan,
Yes.
Councilwoman Guy,
Yes.
Councilman Powers,
Yes.
Councilwoman Percival,
Yes.
Councilman Sidlow,
Yes.
Vice President Bull,
Yes.
President Swaggart.
Yes.
Congratulations.
We have under new business, we have the MS4.
Yes, sir. We have Miss Christie from Catania Engineering to do a brief summary of the MS4 program. A hard copy for the public will be on file here in the borough.
Do you want me to pass that around now for everyone to view? Oh, yeah.
I would just do brief notes.
Just, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I did have a brief summary.
Help yourself.
If I could just have everybody's attention for a moment, I
We're almost finished.
really appreciate
Hang in
it.
there, guys.
I'll just be really quick, but I'm gonna talk about stormwater, and the municipality has a permit to discharge all of their stormwater, and that's called the NPDS permit, and this is required by DEP, and under this permit, there's something called the MS4, which is the municipal separate storm sewer system. So all the stormwater is separate from the sanitary. And this program has gone through a couple of changes. It's gone through different permit cycles. It started back, I believe, in 2003. It's made a couple of changes, and it has been mostly really focused on housekeeping, general knowledge, educating the public, which I'm doing today. But this new part of the MS4, which DEP started in the past couple of years, is now focused on identifying target pollutants. And this is something all of Pennsylvania, all municipalities had to deal with. It's not just Brookhaven or Parkside or Ridley or anybody in Delaware County. It's everybody. So
It's scary stuff.
DEP said, you know what, this permit cycle, which is 5 years, we're gonna focus on sediment, which a lot of people think that's not pollution, it's just dirt, soil that gets into streams. But it can be a big deal and be harmful for the streams and the ecosystems in the stream. So it's a little bit harder to see, but it is a concern. So part of the MS4 now is to develop this pollutant reduction plan. It's a way to show the calculations, the mapping, all of the inlets, the storm sewers, where everything goes in Parkside, and figuring out how much, theoretically, how much sediment is going to each borough outfall. So the plan has been through DEP a couple of times. It's gone through revisions. DEP finally approved the mapping, and this is the last piece. Again, it is available for everyone to view. It's going to be, there's a hard copy going to be at the borough. So if anybody wants to see it, make comments on it, you can, and I can review those and update the plan if necessary. So that's going to be 30 days. It started yesterday. It was advertised in the Daily Times, and that runs until February 17th. So any comments made before that, I will happily look over and look at. And then once that 30-day period is up, it goes back to DEP for final approval, and then we get the permit issued. So like I said, a big part of the plan is the mapping. So Parkside's in 2 watersheds, Ridley Creek and Chester Creek. So those are the 2 we're looking at. And breaking down each watershed into individual sewer sheds. Like there's a couple of inlets on this side that goes to Ridley Creek. So all of those inlets that are connected go to one single outfall. Bless you. Goes to one individual outfall. So then DEP has set standards on base calculations, but so what I've come up with is theoretically Chester Creek puts out about 55,000 pounds of sediment per year, and Ridley Creek and Hickinson's Run,
Yeah,
I think
Hickens
I'm
Run.
pronouncing that right, that puts out about 67,000 pounds per year. Again, these are theoretical numbers that DEP made baseline calculations with. And so part of this plan is now the borough is required to reduce this amount by 10%. So Chester Creek has to reduce the 54,000 pounds per year by 5,000 pounds per year. And Ridley Creek is about 6,700 pounds per year. So that's what DEP is requiring. So basically, how do we get there? Is there's these things that we call BMPs, best management practices. They're becoming more popular, but you see rain gardens, you know, those little, they look like regular flower gardens, but they actually collect stormwater, and they help trap a lot of the sediment. There's also bigger basins that you'll see, especially around shopping centers or malls. Those trap a lot more water. And there's a lot of devices that collect the water underground and store it underground. So the big problem, as you probably already know, is that there's not a lot of open space and not a lot of places to put stormwater. So I was really trying to look at effectiveness. One, a lot of these BMPs have effectiveness values that are higher than others, whereas something that stores the water underground, that has a 95% effectiveness, Whereas some rain gardens, again, it depends on the soil, but the lower effectiveness is only 55%. So you're not getting a lot of reduction for that BMP, so I really try to look at ones that had the highest efficiency rate. And another option was street sweeping, which I figured out in just Chester Creek, it only reduces 500 pounds per year, and Ridley Creek 450 pounds per year, and that's compared to the 5,000 pounds per year requirement. So that wasn't really effective. So I looked at areas, I looked at the Parkside Fire Department, but since that I believe is private, you would have to come up with some sort of like agreement with them for maintenance. But that reduces 3,000 pounds per year, which gets you pretty close to the 5,000. And another place I thought about putting it underground, and I've looked at another municipality where they put it under the road, is West Roland Road and Beechwood Road. There's a lot of storm inlets that catch water and then lead it to that location. That would be a good area to put something. And that adds about 2,700 pounds per year. So those two get pretty close to the 5,000 pounds per year requirement. Again, these aren't set in stone. At any time council wants to add a new BMP, it does the plan. Right now, these BMPs are written in the plan, but they can be amended. And it just has to go through the 30-day comment period again to give residents a chance to look at it and comment and say, I don't want a BMP here, I want it here. And then for Ridley Creek, again, the street sweeping wasn't really efficient to get to the requirement. There is an open space on Park Valley Lane across from that development. That would be a good spot to put a rain garden. That reduces about 2,500 pounds per year. And another area, there's, I guess you'd call it like a triangle, Garrison Road and Tom Sweeney Drive. That would be an awesome place to put a rain garden. I mean, that space isn't really doing anything right now. If that could trap some stormwater, right now, it would reduce about 11,000 pounds per year.
That area was a grant.
Okay.
So we can't disturb that for so many years because that was a grant.
Okay.
You might want to check.
Yeah, I'm gonna check with Lisa.
Check with Lisa on that.
Okay.
It's called Ig Island.
Ig?
Ig.
Isn't it Ilg with an L?
Ilg, Ig.
All right, I'll check with
That
Lisa
was
on
a
that.
grant, so that's undisturbed.
Okay.
Please don't cut down the Liberty Elm, there's a beautiful plaque.
I was just
going
gonna say, we've got the Liberty tree.
Okay.
Did you see how it's growing?
It's beautiful, I love it. Please don't disturb it, it pulls plenty of water out of the ground. Boulder next to it came from behind my house.
Yes,
All
it
right.
did.
My back still hurts.
But that's really what I have so far of the plan. Again, these BMPs, even though they're listed in the plan, you can decide you want something somewhere else. Just the really hard thing I've had with Parkside is there's not a lot of municipal open space. At least not that I could find. So any input would be great on where you think you could put a small rain garden. Anything,
I
really.
don't want to torture anybody, but do green roofs help with that? Like the living roofs? Or is that not?
I need to see if
count?
they're,
Sorry, I know it's 9:30.
I don't know if they're listed.
It's an honest question.
So in the full plan, I do list all of DEP's like recommended
She probably knows what
BMPs.
she's looking for personally.
Outside of
That's okay.
Can we get more copies of that?
Oh, sure, yeah.
I was trying to
I
read that online and
Yeah.
my eyes are old.
That's
You got this day.
basis.
Wake 'em up.
My eyes crossed when I started reading.
I know this is getting late and I can give you a better answer. Right now, I haven't planned any and any other municipalities were doing, but I'm sure it could be a possibility. Yep. Oh, and rain barrels. Another great way to, yes, a great way to store stormwater.
I do rain barrels.
But that's what I have, so.
So, is there some sort of action we need to do as a council at the end of this 30-day period? Is there some sort of action that is being expected, or are these just ideas of what we could do?
These are ideas of what you can do.
Okay.
I don't know of any like official action. I know once the comment period, the 30-day comment period is up, then I submit the plan to DEP. And I will reach out. Well, I usually reach out to the borough secretary if there has been any comment submitted. So in the ad that I put out in the Daily Times, it says submit all comments between this period to the borough office.
Yeah.
So if I don't hear back, I'll submit the plan usually the next day to DEP.
I mean, at some point, these will be mandatory, and that's kind of like.
Yeah, well, yeah, these are, yeah. And the plan itself is mandatory too. So just getting it announced and talked about.
There's a significant cost that can be moved towards the boroughs. And thank God we don't have like train lines or anything.
Yeah.
Because they're actually measuring them for pollutants.
Mhm.
And then that was almost terrifying, because if you have like Amtrak running through and there's all the PCBs,
Mhm.
you have like a Superfund site you have to take care of. So.
Yeah, it was February 17th.
Oh, the last day?
Yeah, it's the last day.
Yeah, that makes, yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I just wanted to say one thing.
Go right ahead.
Can we send a letter to the fire company for sending people here?
Yes.
And not, just
We
a
just-
quick thank you, appreciate you coming. They definitely wanted to just give us a report, and we just ran along.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We threw them out.
I'll make sure a letter gets to them.
Thank you. Motion to adjourn.
Can I make one suggestion? I would appreciate maybe phones not being on, when people texting on council while we're having the meeting, because I actually waved, so I know it was coming this way. So if that can be something that's put in, I know it was mentioned last year, but maybe. if it
I forgot
gets
to mention it
enforced-
at the beginning of the meeting. I've already made a few notes of
No, I
stuff
get-
that
I
I've
get-
missed, and I was going to email council after the meeting
No,
was
I
over.
get the fact that you did with the people out, the residents and all that, it's on council.
No, I was
I know.
going to address that later.
I have a small point of order.
Vice President?
I do use my calculator, and if somebody references another email or something along that line, so it's not like I'm checking,
No.
you know, social media or something like that.
I know it's been a long meeting, one thing.
Well, if I'm sitting here, if I'm seeing that side pointing towards me, I know somebody's taking a video or a picture, okay? And I go like this, and it's like, guess what? I take offense to that. If somebody wants to take my picture, I'll be glad to pose for it.
Mr. Powers, you were speaking?
Yeah, on
Oh, sorry.
behalf of the
No, it
Parkside
wasn't.
Fire Company and citizens of Parkside, we are putting together a blood drive. So we can look for those dates. We're in touch with the Red Cross, and hopefully we'll get a good turnout. We're in a national shortage right now of blood, so sponsored by the fire company and citizens.
Any idea, like, month, time frame?
It could be 2 months out according to the Red Cross.
Okay.
So they're claiming a major shortage, but they're not in a big hurry to book us.
Okay.
So, unless something changes quickly, but I want to make sure that it's out there, that people know that the firehouse is working on this, so we don't, someone else don't think they want to do it, it's already in the works.
Okay.
Is it okay to set up the utility bills and the lease for the copier on an automatic payment so we don't have to issue checks? Was there any issue with that? I think I emailed council.
Do we have, is there anything?
Advise, and we can get an answer to you.
We'll just set them up on automatic pay and reduce any late fees or things like that.
barring the need for a resolution. I'll accept a motion to set up automatic payments for bills.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion to approve automatic payments for the bills as suggested by the treasurer.
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? So moved.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Amen.